your body has a boardroom. A full executive team making every call you think you're making, who you love, what you eat, when you panic, why you stayed up until 3 a.m. even though you knew better. You never got a vote. You never got a memo. You were told you were in charge. You were not in charge. These are the hormones that run your decisions. All of them. Every craving, every crush, every inexplicable wave of dread at a perfectly fine Tuesday, traced back to molecules you can't see, released by organs you forgot you had. Let's start from the top. Cortisol. Most people think cortisol is just the stress hormone. It is not just the stress hormone. It is the alarm system, the fuel supply, the timekeeper, and the slow poison, all in one molecule. Your body runs on it the way a city runs on infrastructure. You only notice it when it fails. Cortisol has been around since before you were human. Every vertebrate on Earth produces it. It evolved for one purpose, to keep you alive long enough to stop being eaten. A predator appears, cortisol spikes, blood sugar rises, muscles get fuel, digestion stops, pain suppresses. You run or you fight. The threat ends. Cortisol drops. The whole cycle takes minutes. The mechanism is clean. The hypothalamus signals the pituitary signals the adrenal glands, the adrenals flood your bloodstream. Cortisol then raises blood glucose, suppresses the immune system temporarily, sharpens focus, and contracts blood vessels. It is a full-body emergency broadcast that predates language by several 100 million years. Here's the part nobody tells you. Cortisol cannot tell the difference between a lion and a deadline. Your nervous system processes a passive-aggressive email from your manager with the same threat detection pathway that your ancestors used for predators. The spike happens anyway. The fuel floods anyway. Except there's no running, no fighting, and no resolution, so cortisol stays elevated. Chronically high cortisol destroys hippocampal neurons, suppresses testosterone and estrogen, causes visceral fat accumulation, and systematically dismantles your immune system. The stress hormone isn't killing you fast. It's killing you in quarterly increments. Around 75% of all doctor visits in the United States are linked to stress-related conditions. Cortisol is usually somewhere in the paperwork. Next, the hormone that makes you do it all for someone else. Oxytocin. Everyone calls it the love hormone. That framing is doing a lot of heavy lifting for something far more complicated. Oxytocin is not about love. It is about bonding, and bonding has a dark side that the wellness industry forgot to mention. Oxytocin's evolutionary story is ancient. It appears in fish. It regulates social behavior, pair bonding, maternal care, and group cohesion across nearly every social species. In humans it got turbocharged, because humans live in groups and groups need trust and trust requires a mechanism. Oxytocin is that mechanism. In the body, oxytocin is produced in the hypothalamus and released by the pituitary gland during physical touch, eye contact, childbirth, breastfeeding, and orgasm. It promotes trust, generosity, empathy, and attachment. It reduces cortisol. Makes other people feel safe. It literally rewires your perception of whoever is nearby when it peaks. Here's what nobody mentions. Oxytocin is tribal. It doesn't create universal love, it creates in-group bonding at the direct expense of out-group perception. Studies show that oxytocin increases favoritism, envy, and distrust of people outside the group it bonds you to. It's the reason cults feel warm. It's the neurochemical infrastructure of nationalism. The same molecule that makes you weep at your child's first steps also makes you more likely to deceive a stranger. Love hormone. Sure. Also, the loyalty enforcement chemical. In new relationships, oxytocin levels mirror those seen in obsessive-compulsive disorder. That obsessive early-stage feeling isn't romantic. It's clinical. Next, the molecule that rewards you for absolutely nothing. Dopamine. You've heard it's the pleasure chemical. That is technically wrong and the correction changes everything. Dopamine is not about pleasure. Dopamine is about the anticipation of pleasure. The wanting, not the having. The chase, not the catch. Understanding this difference explains most of human civilization and all of your bad habits. Dopamine's evolutionary job was to reinforce behaviors necessary for survival: eating, sex, exploration, social success. It created the drive loop. See reward, desire reward, pursue reward, get small dopamine hit, repeat. The hit from getting was always smaller than the anticipation. Evolution built the discount in on purpose. Satisfaction is dangerous. A satisfied animal stops moving. Mechanically, dopamine is synthesized from tyrosine in the brain's reward pathways, primarily the mesolimbic system. Dopamine doesn't flood the brain during the reward itself. It floods during the cue that predicts the reward. A notification sound. A slot machine graphic. The little red number on an app icon. Your brain was hijacked by engineers who studied this mechanism in detail and built entire platforms around it. Here's the part nobody tells you. Dopamine depletion is not addiction's cause, it's addiction's product. Every artificial spike, sugar, social media, gambling, cocaine, followed by a crash. Each crash recalibrates the baseline lower. Over time, normal life no longer produces enough dopamine to feel neutral. The reward threshold has moved. You're not chasing highs anymore. You're chasing the absence of gray. The technical term is anhedonia. Most people just call it not enjoying anything. Dopamine is also the primary driver of motivation, learning, and motor control. Parkinson's disease is, at its core, dopamine neuron death. The tremors are just what happens when the wanting circuitry breaks down. Up next, the hormone that makes you want to win before the competition starts. Testosterone. Everyone thinks this is the aggression hormone, the muscle hormone, the male hormone. All three framings are reductive to the point of being wrong. Testosterone is the dominance and risk-taking hormone, and it runs in both sexes with consequences that have nothing to do with muscles. Testosterone has been documented in species going back 450 million years. In early vertebrates, it coordinated reproductive behavior, territorial defense, and social hierarchy. It is not a human innovation. It is ancient behavioral programming wrapped in a steroid molecule. The mechanism: testosterone is produced primarily in the testes in males and the ovaries and adrenal glands in females. It binds to androgen receptors throughout the body, brain, muscle, bone, skin, cardiovascular system. In the brain specifically, it modulates the amygdala's threat response, increases impulsivity, reduces fear, and raises the threshold for social submission. It makes you more willing to take risks and less willing to back down. Here's what nobody tells you. Testosterone does not cause aggression directly, it raises sensitivity to social challenge. In a calm environment, testosterone has almost no effect on behavior. But in a competitive or threatening context, it amplifies the response dramatically. This is called the challenge hypothesis. It also means testosterone levels change in response to wins and losses, in real time. Win a chess match, testosterone rises. Lose, it drops. Watch your favorite sports team win, testosterone rises. Watch them lose, it drops. Your hormonal profile is being updated by events you're not even participating in. You are chemically affected by sports outcomes. That's where we are as a species. Female testosterone, long ignored by research, turns out to be critical for libido, energy, confidence, and spatial cognition. The science just spent decades not looking. Next, the molecule that your brain mistakes for falling in love. Adrenaline. Also known as epinephrine. This is the one people think they understand, the fight or flight hormone, the emergency chemical, the thing that lets mothers lift cars. They're not wrong. They're just describing the obvious features and missing the operational weirdness underneath. Adrenaline's evolutionary history is ancient and universal. The same system functions in invertebrates. The basic premise has not changed in hundreds of millions of years. Something dangerous is near, the body needs to be weaponized instantly. Adrenaline is the weaponization command. The mechanism is fast, faster than cortisol by design. The adrenal medulla dumps adrenaline directly into the bloodstream in seconds. Heart rate doubles. Bronchial tubes dilate. Blood is rerouted from the digestive system to the large muscles. Pupils dilate. Pain signals are suppressed. Blood clotting accelerates. The liver releases stored glucose. Every non-essential system is shut down and every combat-relevant system is turned up simultaneously. Here's the part nobody tells you. Adrenaline is also released during excitement, and the body cannot always tell the difference between excitement and terror. The physiological signatures are nearly identical. Heart pounding, shallow breathing, heightened alertness, time distortion. The labeling comes from context. This is called misattribution of arousal, and it has been experimentally exploited. People who meet on a shaky suspension bridge rate each other as more attractive than people who meet on solid ground. Your nervous system filed the adrenaline under, "This person is exciting." The adrenaline was from the bridge. Emotions are not always what you think they are. Sometimes they're just a report on your heart rate. Adrenaline also explains why roller coasters, horror films, and first dates all feel surprisingly similar at the chemical level. Your body is not subtle. Next, the hormone that decides how quickly everything ages. Insulin. Usually filed under diabetes prevention and blood sugar management. Both correct. Also catastrophically incomplete. Insulin is one of the oldest and most powerful metabolic hormones in the human body, and its dysfunction is implicated in a range of conditions that have almost nothing to do with blood sugar on their surface. Insulin evolved over 600 million years ago. The basic structure is nearly identical across species from fish to humans. This is not a coincidence. It means insulin's core function is so essential that evolution could not afford to modify it. What does it do in the most fundamental terms? It tells cells that fuel has arrived and that they should open their doors. Mechanically, insulin is produced by the beta cells of the pancreas in response to rising blood glucose. It binds to receptors on the surface of cells, triggering a cascade that allows glucose to enter. It also signals fat cells to store lipids and stops the liver from dumping more glucose. Without insulin, glucose floods the bloodstream and starves the cells simultaneously. This is type 1 diabetes. The fuel is there. The key is missing. Here's what nobody mentions. Insulin resistance, the precursor to type 2 diabetes, develops silently for years before any diagnosis. The cells stop responding to insulin signals, so the pancreas produces more and eventually burns out. But during that silent phase, chronically elevated insulin is actively promoting fat storage, feeding hormone-sensitive cancers, degrading cognitive function, and driving cardiovascular inflammation. Insulin resistance is now strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease, to the point where some researchers refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. The label hasn't stuck officially. The mechanism has. Over 1 in 3 adults in the United States has prediabetes. Most of them don't know. The pancreas hasn't made an appointment. And finally, the hormone running your sleep, your aging, and your internal clock. Melatonin. Sold at every pharmacy as a sleep aid. Taken in doses that are mostly too high by people who mostly misunderstand what it does. Melatonin is not a sedative. Melatonin is a darkness signal. It does not make you sleep. It tells your body that night has arrived and that the biological processes associated with night should begin. Melatonin is one of the most evolutionarily ancient molecules in existence. It appears in bacteria. It predates sleep itself. Its original function was protecting cells from oxidative stress during darkness. The sleep regulation function came later, much later. Melatonin has been modified and repurposed by evolution across billions of years while remaining structurally almost unchanged. The mechanism: melatonin is produced by the pineal gland in response to darkness, as detected by the retinal ganglion cells of the eye. Dim the light, melatonin rises. Introduce blue spectrum light, the exact spectrum emitted by screens, and melatonin production stops within minutes. The pineal gland cannot tell the difference between sunlight and a smartphone. The gland is not stupid. The smartphone did not exist yesterday on the evolutionary timeline. Here's the part nobody tells you. Melatonin is also a potent antioxidant, an immunomodulator, and a mitochondrial protector. Melatonin receptors exist in the heart, the intestines, the immune system, and the skin. Research links melatonin to tumor suppression. Night shift workers who chronically suppress melatonin have statistically elevated rates of breast and colorectal cancer. This is not a fringe theory. The World Health Organization classifies night shift work as a probable carcinogen, with melatonin disruption as the proposed mechanism. Staring at your phone at midnight is not just ruining your sleep. According to the WHO's carcinogen classification framework, it is a probable health risk. Sleep on that. Melatonin production declines with age. By 70, you produce roughly half of what you produced at 20. Whether that decline causes aging or is caused by it, nobody knows yet. The research is arguing about it right now. Your body never asked your opinion. Every hormone on this list was running its calculations before you learned to speak. Routing resources, adjusting behavior, deciding what counts as a threat and what counts as a reward. Cortisol that can't tell a lion from a spreadsheet. Oxytocin that bonds you to groups and makes you distrust everyone else. Dopamine chasing the anticipation of a reward that will never fully arrive. Testosterone recalibrating your confidence based on a sports score. Adrenaline misfiling a bridge encounter as attraction. Insulin failing silently for years before anyone notices. Melatonin being jammed by a rectangle of glass you chose to look at before bed. None of this means you have no agency. It means your agency operates inside a system that is billions of years old and was not designed for the world you live in. Knowing the system is not an excuse. It's a starting point. The boardroom was running without you. Now you know who's in it.